Hey guys, Manara Mohawish here. So I'm sitting in my car and I just left the march that was taking place in Minneapolis for justice for George Floyd. And I saw something pretty incredible, not just tonight, but at all the protests that I've been at for justice for Floyd, which is the mass people calling for not just dismantling of the police, but calling for ending the two-party system. And that was a really powerful moment for me because, at Mint Press, we've been talking about this for Mint Press is approaching its 9th year coming up here in January, but we've been talking about dismantling the two-party system for a very, very long time because we don't have really even a two-party system. We have a one-party dictatorship ruling over us, both parties that work in the interest of billionaires, the military-industrial complex, and the police state, the national security state. This is all just for the sake of the billionaire class. And so what I'm starting to notice, though, is that even though the mass public is seeing the farce of the two-party system, we're going at these protests slowly but surely. I'm starting to notice that these paid organizers are coming to these events calling for people to just vote it out. Yes, we're angry. We acknowledge your pain. Yes, we need to dismantle the police state. Yes, we have to make all of these reforms and changes to the system to bring true justice. But really the only way to do that, they're telling us, is to vote it out. And that is total BS. I'm getting tired of hearing that from people, and the protesters are getting tired of hearing that too. And these aren't just young people. I mean, this is like all ages. People of all ages at these protests and at these demonstrations for police brutality are talking about the two-party system being a sham. Both Republicans and Democrats not working in the interest of the people. In fact, it's Democrats most of the time who are enabling and passing bills and laws that just empower the police state, like they are doing right now under the Trump administration. And not that Trump is innocent, but it's also Democrats that are pushing these things into law. And so I just wanted to point that out, that that even the protesters are calling out some of these organizers that are coming up and standing up to speak at these protest movements, at the Black Lives Matter movement, that are calling for people to vote it out. And so we have to be really, really careful. We have to be diligent about not allowing you-know-who, which is the Democratic establishment, from hijacking this uprising and hijacking this movement for justice for Floyd. And so we have to really be diligent about this. And then now we have people coming out from the Democratic Party and like war criminals like Hillary Clinton, right? She's coming like out from the shadows, and she's like trying to show her compassion for the black community after all of her like predator comments about like black men and all of the awful things that her husband did during his time of office, Bill Clinton. And then like people like Colin Powell, who stood in front of Congress to like convince the American public that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, which led to like Operation Iraqi Freedom under George W. Bush. All of these people who are now aligned with the Democratic Party, even Anderson Cooper, who is coming out and trying to show sympathy for black lives and show sympathy for African Americans and social injustice in this country. It's all a farce. It's all like a PR scandal. Like they're just doing it for public relations now because they see that it's such a strong movement that has taken effect all over the world now. I mean, the Justice for George Floyd movement has really erupted and just created like this ripple effect throughout the world that people are so outraged about the police state and dismantling militarism from the very top to the bottom. And so that's my thoughts. I just wanted to point out that people are aware at these protests that some of these organizers are not working in their interests. And me as a journalist, I'm just there covering the event. Just because I'm at an event covering it doesn't mean that I'm like in support of it or anything. I saw a lot of comments and people saying, well, you support George Soros, he's funding these protests. Like, George Soros is not funding these protests. But we should also be diligent about the fact that the Democratic Party, who we should really be worried about, we shouldn't always just try to pinpoint like one person that's like behind closed doors, like waving their finger, doing magic or something. That's like That's not how the system works. It's an entire establishment. And in this case, I do believe that the Democratic establishment is taking advantage of these protests to change face, to make themselves look, like they care about social justice, but they don't. So don't fall for it. It's all a PR campaign and stunt. If Hillary Clinton had an iota, just an iota of care for humanity, she would not have been the one cheerleading for regime change in Libya. She would not have been advocating for regime change in Syria, and calling for the expansion of our military across Africa, and standing up at APAC saying that, she's going to ensure that the United States continues to support an apartheid regime. Hillary Clinton and the cronies that come from the Democratic Party and the establishment Democratic media that support her, and the Democratic establishment, like people like Anderson Cooper and like Rachel Maddow, these people do not work in our interest. And so this is all BS of them standing in front of their cameras right now, trying to, pretend like they care about social justice. They're just using this to benefit themselves. So don't fall for it. It's all a PR stunt and scandal. But that's a wrap for tonight. The protests in Minneapolis, just to give you guys a little bit of an update, they're starting to settle down a little bit. And I think that, based on what I'm talking to people, the fire in them, especially the young people, is still there. But like I just said, some of the organizers that are starting to hop in are coming from the Democratic establishment side. And so they are kind of pushing the voting. If we want to make change, we have to vote. We have to vote. We have to vote. And so they're still pushing the idea that we have to vote to make change. But remember, it's not just about dismantling the police state. It's not just about ending racism. It's about an entire system, including corporate media. Because even if we did vote in an alternative candidate, the corporate media is not even going to allow alternative candidates to make it to the debate stage. They're not, I think CNN or MSNBC is going to allow for an independent or alternative candidate to make it there. And then there's the entire special interest machine, the public relations machine that works within our media to attack and slander independent candidates as Russian minions or pro-China or pro-Iran, whatever they call for ending war or militarism, they smear them in that way. And so it's not just about the things that I just mentioned, but it's about an entire system, including the corporate media, that needs to be boycotted as well. But anyways, that's a wrap for tonight. I hope you guys have a lovely evening. Thank you for watching the live streams. It's been such a pleasure. I'm going to continue to, be at some of the protests that I think are relevant to our coverage. And I hope that you guys will continue to follow. And remember that this is independent media. So we rely on the support of our readers and our viewers to continue to support us. So make sure if you can donate, that would be excellent. If you can share live streams, that would be excellent. But that's a wrap for tonight, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you.